We spend billions pointing our telescopes at dead, distant planets, mapping the craters of Mars with extreme precision. Yet directly beneath our feet lies a frontier we know surprisingly little about. The crust we walk on is a thin shell, and what exists below it remains humanity's greatest blind spot. Ancient traditions describe a hidden world where that blind spot opens up into something impossible. This is Agartha. It is a deliberate sanctuary, a sprawling subterranean kingdom engineered by refugees who fled the violent cataclysms of the surface. The legends speak of a self-sustaining biosphere, completely independent from the sky above. At its core burns a smoky sun, a central energy source that bathes the inner world in a perpetual warm twilight and sustains biological life indefinitely. Safe from weather and war, the inhabitants have supposedly mastered the laws of biology and gravity, evolving into a state of enlightened peace, while the surface world remained locked in chaos. For decades, academics dismissed these accounts as mere folklore. But as modern seismic imaging maps the deep mantle, we are detecting massive, unexplainable anomalies, voids and structures that match the physical scale of these ancient descriptions. The oldest records of this inner domain come from the high Himalayas. In Tibetan Buddhism, the ancient texts of the Kalachakra Tantra document a sacred, hidden realm, often called Shambhala, woven deep into the fabric of the earth. But these texts are clear on one point. There is no map that can take you there by force. The gateways are heavily guarded, and the kingdom remains accessible only to those who are utterly pure of heart. Remarkably, you find the exact same narrative thousands of miles away in entirely disconnected cultures. The Hopi tribes of Arizona, for instance, maintain origin stories detailing how their earliest ancestors emerged from a subterranean sanctuary. From the deserts of the American Southwest to the peaks of Tibet, the global folklore aligns on a single compelling point. Humanity's ancestors didn't descend from the stars. When the world broke, they retreated into the earth. To understand why they retreated, we have to look at Central Asian folklore regarding the Gobi Desert. Today, it is a barren expanse of sand and rock, but the old stories describe it as a lush paradise occupied by an advanced race. That golden age ended instantly. A sudden celestial disaster, a comet strike or a solar flare, scorched the surface, turning their vibrant homeland into a wasteland. Faced with extinction, the survivors moved down. They allegedly utilized a mysterious force known as vril energy to shear through the solid bedrock of the Himalayas, excavating massive cavern systems to house a self-sustaining society. Agartha was engineered as the ultimate planetary doomsday vault. It was a fortress built to preserve the advanced technologies of the First Age, while the bruised remnants of surface humanity slipped into the amnesia of the Dark Ages. This concept reached the West in the 19th century, when European occultists like Alexandra St. Yves d'Alvedre began claiming they had made telepathic contact with the realm's leader, an entity they called the King of the World. While telepathic claims are impossible to verify, the narrative took a sharp turn into physical reality in 1947. The catalyst was a high-stakes North Pole flight commanded by U.S. Navy Admiral Richard E. Byrd. According to a controversial secret diary attributed to Byrd, his plane passed through a massive depression in the polar ice. He documented flying over a subterranean river valley complete with green forests, living mammoths, and a sprawling city made of crystal. There, Byrd claimed he was escorted to a subterranean leader known as the Master. This figure delivered a warning. Humanity's recent detonation of atomic weapons had disturbed the balance of the inner world. The U.S. military officially denied any such detour occurred. Yet Byrd's account of a physical breach in the ice moved the concept out of the realm of esoteric mysticism, providing the first physical framework for modern Hollow Earth theories. For decades, the idea of an inhabited inner Earth was written off as a bizarre mix of mistranslated myths and mid-century paranoia. We no longer rely on the diaries of explorers or the visions of mystics. Sophisticated deep Earth seismic scanners are mapping the mantle with unprecedented precision. These instruments read the echoes of earthquakes to sea underground, and they are revealing continent-sized dense structures and subterranean oceans that challenge our traditional understanding of a solid planet. It leaves us with a question to answer. Was Agartha a literal kingdom powered by forgotten physics? Or did ancient cultures use these stories as a complex metaphor for humanity's deep, intrinsic bond with the living planet? Whether constructed of solid rock or spiritual symbolism, our ancestors clearly understood that the deep earth harbors immense power. And as our modern tools finally give us the ability to knock on the door of the underworld, the journey into the center of our planet is only just beginning. For decades, the idea of an entire world hidden inside our planet belonged exclusively to 19th century theosophists and writers of pulp science fiction. The concept of Agartha was routinely dismissed as a product of folklore. But that historical dismissal is over. We are currently executing a digital siege of the inner Earth. By tracking seismic waves and mapping gravitational anomalies, geophysicists are effectively peeling back the solid crust. The data arriving at our research stations contradicts the classic models of a solid, molten interior. Instead, the scans show immense continental-scale voids and massive, unexplored reservoirs of liquid trapped deep within the mantle. To understand what these scans are showing us, we have to audit the planet itself. We are going to test this modern geophysical data against the strict physical requirements needed to support an inner Earth civilization. At this level of science, we are no longer debating myths. We are analyzing a verifiable geological blueprint. The first requirement is biological. To sustain life, an inner Earth must possess a robust, self-sustaining environment, completely independent of the weather or climate on the surface. The evidence for this environment was discovered in 2014, locked inside a rare mineral called ringwoodite. Geologists found a microscopic sample of this material trapped right in the center of a raw diamond. That specific diamond was erupted out of the deep mantle by a magma plume, acting as a geological record. The ringwoodite held within its crystal structure an undeniable massive volume of trapped water. This diagram outlines the exact geological location. 400 miles down, in the transition zone, sits a deep Earth ocean holding 3 times the volume of all surface oceans combined. This confirms the environment needed for a subterranean biosphere to thrive. The water is there, providing the physical foundation for life apart from our surface climate. The planet definitively possesses the physical requirements for an internal ecosystem. Phase 1 is a pass. The second requirement is logistical. A functioning internal society needs physical access points that allow movement through the thick rock of the Earth's crust. In 2026, field researchers began using advanced ground-penetrating radar to scan the furthest reaches of the world's longest cave systems, mapping unexplored depths from Mammoth Cave in Kentucky to the high Andes. The radar returns revealed a distinct anomaly. Below the naturally formed caverns, they found smooth-walled tunnels descending at steep, deliberate angles, tunnels extending far deeper than natural water erosion should allow. These corridors are perfectly circular and emit steady, structured electromagnetic signatures. The uniformity of the walls and the active signal being measured suggest an engineered origin rather than the chaotic fracturing of natural geology. When researchers mapped the coordinates of this global superhighway system, the layout accurately matched the locations of the Agarthan gates described in 19th century manuscripts. Engineered, interconnected corridors deep within the crust fulfill the logistical requirement for Agartha. Phase 2 passes. The third requirement is structural. Agartha requires solid physical foundations inside the deep earth, anchor points massive enough to support sprawling cities. To find those, we look to what geologists call large, low shear velocity provinces. These are 2 massive, unexplained masses resting at the mantle's base. The physical scale of these formations is staggering. Each individual structure is roughly the size of a surface continent. New 2026 satellite data has begun resolving these anomalies into distinct geometric shapes. Because they emit concentrated gravitational pulls, researchers are now analyzing them as potential energy hubs or the foundational supports for the inner cities. We have identified continent-sized, structurally distinct anchors near the core of the planet. The architectural prerequisites are accounted for. By following the data, geophysics has documented the exact elements required to host an inner world. We have located a subterranean ocean, mapped engineered crustal infrastructure, and isolated continental-scale foundational structures. While we have yet to explain the legendary smoky sun that supposedly powers these depths, the thermal, architectural, and physical reality of the spaces down there can no longer be ignored. Exploration is turning inward. The data shows that the most significant discovery in human history is waiting exactly 400 miles straight down. The inner Earth is active and vast. The legend of Agartha remains humanity's most profound unsolved mystery, waiting directly beneath our feet.